What's up, guys? It's Eventon here. So I'm actually really excited to bring you this video because there's a huge update that was announced just a couple days ago about some mineral distribution that's happening in like high sec, low sec, null sec, and I wanted to do a little bit of research, make sure I understand the patch notes. I watched a couple other YouTube videos and streamers talk about it as well. So I wanted to kind of formulate my opinions as to what's going to happen and kind of some other ideas that they had in case you guys haven't been kind of like up to date with what our people are thinking. These changes are going to affect high sec, low sec. Right now I'm in my coveter on my alt account, and I forgot how ungodly slow that thing is. I even put a micro warp drive on it, and the thing is still barely moving at 150 meters a second. So in my Orca right now, I'm mining some Rakavine. I'm not 100% sure if this is the proper move, to be honest. I feel like I can't go wrong with it. I know this stuff you can't compress it, and it's really heavy, but based on the new update, it seems like it's going to yield a ton of tritanium, and it actually has some low and nullsec ores in it as well. So I think there might be some sort of value in it as we talk about this. So I'll go ahead and jump into it. Okay, so I actually had to re-record this entire part because it was showing my game and not my screen, unfortunately. The long story short of this update is that certain ores are going to be stripped from certain security space, and the asteroid DNA, they call it, the yields of certain ores are going to be either completely removed for certain types of minerals, or they're actually getting, quote unquote, buffed. And other ones like Pyroxys is actually getting a huge boost into pyrite, but they're completely losing their tritanium yield. So I'm not going to go too in depth with all of this, but what really stood out to me was, obviously, at first when I initially saw this, I thought this meant that the exclusive, exporter of tritanium is going to be high sec, and same thing with Isogen and Noxium, Sidrine, Megasite, Morphite. This is what I thought this meant. Wormholes are actually losing all like ore mineral ores in there, so they're just going to have gas and whatever materials they can kind of scrounge up for T3 stuff. But all this means is that if you're in high sec, the only thing you can mine is tritanium. So there actually is some minor ways you can actually get tritanium in low sec, and there's actually a small amount of ways you can get Isogen, Noxium, and some other stuff in like other parts. But as you'll see here, this is going to pretty much affect the game across the board. I think a lot of people are reacting pretty aggressively, like the mineral prices of certain things, especially like tritanium, Isogen, things like that. Like a lot of them skyrocketed by like 20 or 30% because people were just panic buying everything. And such a quick rate. Like I think tritanium was at like 7 ISK, and then it jumped up to like 9 or something like that. So obviously a lot of people are just trying to buy up any reserves that they can and just kind of keep them there and just see how the market plays out for the most part. But again, I'm not going to cover the you guys can check it out yourself, the asteroid ore DNA. But the one thing that did surprise me, and I'm actually doing it right now, as you can see, was I was mining a lot of Rakavine. I'm not sure if this is a mistake or not. I know this stuff is a pain in the ass to transport, but I noticed that it's losing a lot of its yield in some other areas, but it got a humongous buff to tritanium. So it used to only yield, looks like 22,000, but now it went up to 40,000. So it literally has gone up about 12 or 13 fold when it comes to tritanium yield, and it actually got some Isogen yield that's available to it. So that's a low sec ore. Then it actually got a slight nerf to Zydrine, which is going to be a null sec ore. So Rakavine is going to be the only way, as far as I know, in high sec, if you mine in Triglavian systems, to be able to have access to some low and null sec ores. So we'll see how this plays out. I know this stuff is such a pain to haul, and then even when you reprocess it, you get the minerals, which you can't compress those either. I mean, that's just the raw materials. So just doing a bit of mining here. I'm just kind of taking a gamble for the most part, but I think as long as you're just mining right now and just trying to take advantage of it any way you can, because I think, in my opinion, mining, even as a solo miner, it's going to be work in your favor. And as you can see, some of the asteroid belts are being changed in high security. All variations of Omber and Kernite are being removed. Some people are really doubling their efforts trying to mine some Omber and Kernite right now. And low security, Veldspar is getting removed. So you guys can see the notes here for the most part. Especially ore anomalies. Like all ore anomalies will be removed in high sec, so there's going to be no way to get access to any like lower null sec ores through ore anomalies. Same thing here. Certain ore anomalies will be removed from low sec. So there's going to be a lot of changes happening. I think one of the bigger ones too is that wormholes are completely losing any and all access to ores and wormholes. So it just seems like gas production is going to be really high in wormholes for drugs and like T3 production. So from what I've heard from some of the professionals and like experts and stuff that we're kind of talking about this, is that they're trying to make more room in wormholes for other things. So I don't know if they're going to have maybe some more exclusive, you know, gas content that might be coming later, or maybe they will get a mineral that seems to be the least represented in the market, put it in wormhole, so now it starts having some sort of value. I'm not 100% certain, but didn't look too much in like the solve ores, things like that. To be honest, I'm not in that kind of content too much. But this was kind of like the closing notes that they had. There more movement in low sec, which I would agree. I think low sec is going to be kind of like the middleman, because if you want high sec ores to go through to null sec, you're going to have to go through low sec at some point, right? Increased mining ship losses, more market transactions for ores and minerals, mineral income from refining items to increase, prices of minerals to change. So I did write down a couple notes here, which I will cover here in a sec, but I was just I wanted to make sure I did my research and watch like a couple streams, a handful of YouTube videos to make sure I fully understood this updates and its possible repercussions, which I think in some way, you know, people are going to win and lose in these type of scenarios. And if you're losing, I mean, that's something that's, you know, on you, to be honest. Like, I mean, there's always going to be a way you can kind of navigate these types of changes and become actually a winner, or at least like diminish your losses and find a way to recover. So I'll go ahead and cover those here. All right, so just to go over a couple of things, one of the things I noticed, like I said before, was that there's still going to be access to lots of tritanium in low sec. Like there's going to be the Triglavian systems, and to be honest, I already kind of made a video about it, my opinions on it, and I think the fact that you can switch from Triglavian to Edencom and vice versa, I mean, it takes you about 20 or 30 minutes worth of time just to shoot the other faction, and then before you know it, now you're at least neutral to them and they won't shoot you. So I think that whole aspect is going to be interesting. So low sec is still going to have decent access to high sec materials like minerals. So I'm not sure if I just want to look at my Orca. There's a really good angle I saw of this, so I actually might just keep it right here for now, just because I think that's a really cool angle of like the major conduit for the most part. But yeah, so like the Triglavian ores, like they said, there's going to be more low sec activity, so people are going to be going in and out of there. I think some high sec miners might try and get their feet wet and actually head into low sec and just see what that's like. But I think unless you have a pretty decent sized fleet, you're kind of just set up to die, and you're just going to be throwing yourself into a meat grinder. Again, like wormholes are getting hosed when it comes to minerals, but you know, who knows, maybe they could get more gas cloud anomalies, and so maybe some gas cloud huffing will be more lucrative out there. Someone else brought up that right now, there's a decent amount of low sec player stations, but if there's a lot of activity happening on those player stations, especially with the way that minerals are going to be naturally going up in price, things are going to be more expensive. You could be having some null sec corporations or even low sec ones going into low sec. I mean, all it takes is a few stations to get a lot of activity of ore, people depositing in there, and especially since people are going to be looking for cores, going to be pretty trigger happy, trying to blow up some player stations for ores. People actually might be resorting to reprocessing and doing all their stuff out of NPC stations instead. So it actually might be a bit safer for people to work out of those NPC stations instead of player stations, because now basically anything and everything is vulnerable when it comes to getting blown up. Some people thought that, and I think I agree too, like for mission runners, things like that, people that don't do a lot of mining, or people that don't, you know, your average, you know, John Smith that's going out there running missions and doing stuff, the cost of their, you know, ammo, the cost of the mods on their ship, things like that, it will go up in price, but so is some of the junk they get, because some of the stuff will get, some of the junk that you get, it actually could go up in price just because the reprocessing will actually yield more than like the junk itself for the most part. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. Some other ideas was like Hulkgeddon. I wasn't a part of Eve when all this stuff was happening. If you guys don't know what that is, you could probably just Google it. But it seems like there was a massive effort for some low sec or like null sec corporations that were making a conscious effort to go on a high sec and blow up all these hulks that were just harvesting for a certain corporation. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and I had no idea even something like that existed until someone brought it up, and I looked it up very quickly. So there could be a conscious effort to actually just prevent miners from actually mining these really, really valuable materials and just kind of bully people out of certain systems and not allowing them to mine at all. There was also another thing that some people were talking about, that nullsec not necessarily taking over highsec, but I mean, if the need is there and there's organized enough, I mean, they could just have a massive fleet of miners go into highsec, carve out a piece of highsec mining belts and just completely clean it out. Because I mean, I know you can't take war calls up there, obviously in highsec, but I mean, you can do a lot of damage with an orca and even like 4 or 5 hulks. And all you need is a T1 hauler to grab the ore, reprocess it locally in that system, and then I mean, you're just keeping the orca in system. So like even an orca with a handful of hulks can do a lot of damage, and you can clean belts within a couple hours. So I mean, who knows? Maybe each and every downtime, nullsec corps are going to have these huge fleets in highsec, and they're going to be able to clean out entire systems within a matter of 6 to 8 hours, and not leaving a lot of ore for the people that are like solo highsec miners, for those John Smiths out there. And yeah, I already mentioned this, that like high sec to low sec miners. So this could cause some movement for the most part, like people moving around between low sec to high sec. I'm kind of curious to see how low sec is going to play this, because they're going to be kind of the new middleman when it comes to transporting goods in and out in the area and seeing things move around. And same thing with low sec, it's going to be the bottleneck for minerals going from high sec to null sec and null sec to high sec and vice versa, which is why I'm kind of mining some Rakavine right now, just because there is some null sec ores, there is some low sec ores. I actually might mine some Talisonite for the most part, because as we saw before, there are some people, because like one of the main concerns that I heard was even some of like the null block people, like they're manufacturing Titans and this and that. Like they said, like, oh, we have more than enough titanium in these other ores, but what's kind of an interesting bottleneck is like the Noxium. Like that stuff is pretty hard to get a hold of occasionally. So low sec is going to be playing a big part in that as well. So sorry if I'm going off on a tangent covering a bunch of different topics, but I'm trying to keep this video like as short as possible and just throw out ideas out there that will hopefully spark a discussion down in the comments below. But there was somebody in Talking in Stations I was watching. They brought up a really, really good point, and I think it happened already, is that that these updates that CCP usually throws out to people, especially when they're these big ones, like whether it's the Triglavians, whether it's these mining and mineral like distribution updates and stuff like that, is it's kind of like throwing food or like a pizza slice at a bunch of pigeons. When you initially throw it, they're all going to get scared and fly away. You have people going on strike, you have people buying up all the ores, things like that, or all the minerals. But once it settles and they kind of take a moment to analyze it, and they actually see that it's an opportunity to actually eat. The food's there on the ground, like they flew away in fear, but now it's like, hey, there's actually food here. There's actually opportunity to make some ISK and leverage the event that's happening right now, and how can I make as much ISK as possible, or how can I move into a different sector and make ISK that way, hopefully make some new alliances, maybe get exposed to new content, because who knows, like maybe you're a miner that moves to low sec, you start getting ganked a lot, and you're like, hey, I'm tired of being the victim, I want to go out and start doing some PvPing, do some faction warfare, things like that. Who knows, like things can happen. But I just wanted to cover this video real quick. It's a very, very short and abridged version of like what's happening, but if you guys want a deeper dive into like what's going on, like Talking in Stations already has like 2 or 3 videos talking about this. There's already streamers going on about it, but mainly just want to put my 2 cents out there. Again, I'm kind of indifferent. I'm excited to see what the changes are going to happen. I've already made some, I wouldn't say investments, but just like changing up my mining tendencies personally, just to see if this stuff kind of like pays off, and we'll see for the most part. So if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, theories about what's going to happen, and I believe from what I've heard that this update is going to hit like mid-October, so it's probably around like the 15th or so, I believe. So it's going to be like the 2nd Tuesday of October, I heard. Maybe 2nd or 3rd Tuesday of October, I heard that's going to happen. So we'll see from there. I think right now people are going to be mining and doubling their efforts into doing stuff. So like I said, I mean, the more miners that go on strike and just kind of avoid the problem, other people are just going to take advantage of it, and they're just going to miss out, at least in my opinion. So again, be active in the comments. I would love to hear what you guys do. I do a pretty good job of responding to everybody, giving them feedback or comments or whatever it may be. And don't forget to hit like, comment, and subscribe. And then if you are a new player, if you guys are want to take advantage of what's going on and make some mining alts and stuff, I do have a link in the description below for 1,000 free million. Not 1,000, I don't want to say 1,000, for 1,000,000 free skill points, which is roughly about 23 days of training, and that's going to significantly cut down your time to skilling into like barges. So you can get into barges really soon with that boost in SP. So I hope you guys have a good one and stay safe.